I'm
Ted, are you
not
going to
exactly,
start?
I'm not exactly sure. We do have Adria in class today. I'm not sure whether Adria has something to play us in with or not. I will ask her to unmute herself and let us know if she's going to play or whether we should just go right to Psalm 17.
I just wanted to make the class aware that a few of the videos that I featured from Voces 8, they have a complete CD of the Psalms of Benedetto Marcello.
Oh,
Let me just, do I have screen sharing?
um,
Um,
uh, Emily,
no, I don't.
can you make Adria Benjamin a co-host, please?
I'll just,
Yeah,
thank you.
she's
I'll
a
just show
Now
you
co-host.
you're co-host.
quickly.
You got it, Adria.
You
Okay, I'm
got it.
just going to show you quickly because, and then I'll put it up in the, in Facebook. But here is, if you can see it,
Oh,
I'll
wow.
just play a little snippet of it. It's a beautiful, beautiful CD. It's too long to play for the whole, for this whole excerpt, but here's a little bit of it. Anyway, it goes through many different sections, and this one you can, I'll put it up on Facebook. You can listen through the whole thing on Facebook. Um,
Wow.
and it also has some other works of Marcello on there. He was a very skilled composer, and he actually wrote a lot of stuff for viola, which is sonatas for viola, which is great. He's a
Wonderful. Yeah.
violist.
Thank you. I love Voce 8 for
Yeah, I
a
mean,
number
this
for a
is a
number of reasons.
really wonderful little CD that they put out in 2015, and there you go, Marcello and the Psalms. Who knew?
So
Beautiful. Thank you. Can't wait
thank
to
you.
look at that. So, CBST has done two concerts totally dedicated to Psalms in the time that I've been at CBST. The first one Joyce did because she knew how much I love Psalms. I think that was for our 20th anniversary. I don't remember. And we actually have a CD. Unfortunately, we don't, all of the recordings from that night were not so good. So we had to really pick and choose. It was a spectacular evening, included segments from Chichester Psalms, which is one of my all-time favorites. So Joyce actually got her 12-year-old neighbor, who was a singer in the Metropolitan Opera's children's chorus, to do the boy solo part. He has gone on, by the way, to become a very famous and well-established musician and actor. But he was 12 when he made his debut at CBST, doing that solo part. And so we do have a CD, which I'm going to look to see if we can find buried somewhere now at CBST. If we have any extras, if people in the class would like it, because now that it's fun to hear. But again, unfortunately, specifically, for instance, even the recording of his singing didn't, I think, survive. But it's all different settings, some Christian settings, some Jewish settings, some choral, some solo, all different kinds of settings of Psalms. And then for Joyce's 25th anniversary, remember we did a Psalm Enchanted Evening, a concert of Psalms. So there's a lot, it's really fun to curate a concert and to think about all the different kinds of settings that Psalms are found in. And now you're going to appreciate all this more and more. So we're continuing with Psalm 17. I know everybody studied in a Chavruta. And I want to point out, when we start by looking at Psalm 17, 15 verses, always the first thing you do, remember you try and get a sense of, is this a short one? Is it a long one? So this is 15, which is longer than some of them we've been doing, but the next Psalm, Psalm 18, is our first genuinely long Psalm. That has over 50 verses. So 18 is really long. So 15 is still on the shorter side, not as short as some, but it has, and I know all of you worked with it already a little bit. So we're going to start by going through the Hebrew and the English today. This has some difficulties in it, some Hebrew difficulties, some, as we've seen, many of the Psalms have Hebrew that are not so, it's not so clear, even if your Hebrew is super good, even if your Hebrew, biblical Hebrew is super good. And remember, these, we're entering texts that are 2,500 years old. That a text would survive intact is really a hard process. So even sometimes it's simply a matter of mistakes were made, scribal errors just in the passing down of a text. And sometimes there might have been a meaning that we can't figure out. And I'm very proud of how much I'm experiencing in the class, your ability to live with this unknown. And still, it's okay to say, okay, given that we don't know what the original could have meant, given that we don't know, still, what does this psalm mean to me? If I had to say, okay, I'm going to sit with this verse and I'm going to make it have meaning for me. It doesn't always mean positive, by the way, but have meaning for me. What will I do with it? So you don't let any obstacle stop you from that question. No, you're not allowed to. That's what a student of Psalms does. It says, okay, this might be hard to understand, or I cannot, or I figure out what it's about, but I'm going to sit here until I figure out in what way do these words, barreling down thousands of years of history and culture, going through generations of my own ancestors or generations of the ancestors of others, here I am. I'm receiving this gift of Tehillim, of Psalms. And now my life is about interacting with it. What is it going to mean to me? So let's jump into Psalm 17. And let's have somebody read through the Hebrew entirely, and then somebody else read through the English entirely, and then we'll get. Ben Schaff, would you do the Hebrew?
You talking to me, Rabbi?
Yeah. Ben had his hand up first. Sorry, Yael.
Go ahead.
Ben, you can get, Yael, you can get 18. That's 51 verses. Get ready.
Good for you, Yael.
I can't wait.
תהילה לדוד, שמעה אדוני, צדק הקשיבה רינתי, האזינה תפילתי, בלא שפתי מרמה. מלפניך משפטי יצא, עיניך תחזינה משרים. בחנת ליבי, פקדת לילה צרפתני, בל תמצא, זמותי בל יעבר פי. לפעולות אדם בדבר שפתיך, אני שמרתי אורחות פריץ. תמוך שועי במרגלותיך, בל נמות ופעמי. אני קראתיך כי תענני אל, העת אוזנך לי, שמע אמרתי. הפלא חסדך, מושיע חוסים, מתקוממים בימינך. שמרני כאישון בת עין, בצר כנפיך תסתירני, מפני רשעים זו שדוני, אויבי בנפש יקיפו עלי. חלבם סגרו, פימו דיברו בגאות. אשרינו אנס סובבנו עיניהם, ישיתו לנטות בארץ. דמיונו כאריה יחשוף לטרוף, וככפיר יושב במסתרים. קומה אדוני, קדמה פניו הכריעהו, פלטה נפשי מרשע חרבך. ממתים ידיך אדוני, ממתים מחלת חלקם בחיים, וצפונך תמלא. בטנם ישבעו בנים, והניחו יתרם לעולליהם. אני בצדק הזה פניך, אזבעה בהקיץ תמונתך.
Beautiful, thank you. And Ben, you could even hear in Ben's voice, there are some weird things in Hebrew that are not natural. And a fluent Hebrew reader is going to stumble over them because they're just not a natural way of saying things. That's what I mean. It's not, there's some things grammatically and just the way they're said is not, and that's true throughout the Psalms, but this one has a few doozies. Okay, so who wants to read the thing through, the Psalm through in English? Kenneth?
Yes, thank you. A prayer of David. Hear, O Lord, what is just. Heed my cry. Give ear to my prayer, uttered without guile. My vindication will come from you. Your eyes will behold what is right. You have visited me at night, probed my mind. You have tested me and found nothing amiss. I determined that my mouth should not transgress. As for man's dealings, in accord with the command of your lips, I have kept in view the fate of the lawless. My feet have held to your paths. My legs have not given way. I call on you, you will answer me, God. Turn your ear to me. Hear what I say. Display your faithfulness in wondrous deeds, you who deliver with your right hand those who seek refuge from assailants. Guard me like the apple of your eye. Hide me in the shadow of your wings. From the wicked who despoil me, my mortal enemies who encircle me. Their hearts are closed to pity. They mouth arrogance. Now they hem in our feet on every side. They set their eyes roaming over the land. He is like a lion eager for prey, a king of beasts lying in wait. Rise, O Lord, go forth to meet him. Bring him down. Rescue me from the wicked with your sword. From men, O Lord, with your hand, from men whose share in life is fleeting. But as to your treasured ones, fill their bellies. Their sons too shall be satisfied and have something to leave over for their young. Then I, justified, will behold your face. Awake, I am filled with the vision of you.
All right, and I know everybody has started to encounter this psalm in your chavruta, so there's a lot of things in our psalm today. So let's dig in. Let's start. The first thing we noticed, Tefillah LeDavid. This is different than the other superscriptions, and it appears only 2 or 3 other times. Tefillah literally is a prayer, like we talk about tefillot or tefillah. Hitpalel is the verb of it. And this is unusual, but it's not the only time. It's not sui generis, as we say. It does appear in other psalms. And that's one of the questions. Why? Because it's not common, although it's not sui generis, is it trying to tell us something new or different about this? But it does, it's a prayer, it does say prayer. And we don't have any indication that prayer means something necessarily related to music, the way the other words are so clearly related to, or not clearly, the consensus is the other words that we've encountered, Lamanatseach, Mizmor, Shir, all of those seem to be related to music. Tefillah, maybe, but we don't really know. It's, but it is notable that it's, again, there are 2 or 3 other times I should have looked it up, but so it does exist. But it's the first time we're encountering it. So that makes this psalm a little interesting for us. So a prayer of David. And again, we'll notice who in our readings continue that in their interpretations or in their translations. Hold on, let me just get this clear here. Okay. Shim'a Yud He Vav He. So Shim'a, from the root Shin Mem Ayin, like the Shema Yisrael, listen Israel. Instead of saying listen Israel, this is Shema Yud He Vav He. Listen or hear, and we'll talk a little bit about the Yud He Vav He. And then there's one of the Psik lines there, so a pause, Tzedek Hakshiva. Now this is very interesting. So Lahakshiv, so this verse has these 2 words that are parallel in some ways, right? To listen, and lahakshiv, I would say, is a little bit of a intensification. So listen, lahakshiv is usually pay attention or add attention, or I'm reminded of 1,000,000 Jewish summer camps. I don't know what they did in the army in Israel. Maybe somebody will tell me, but this word for me is in 1,000,000 Jewish summer camps. Announcements are preceded on the loudspeaker with hakshivu, hakshivu na, pay attention. Do they do that in the army too, Yael? Is that the word used or no? And it's too polite.
I don't think so. I don't remember that happening.
But in Jewish summer camps in America, they will start all announcements on the loudspeaker. Hakshivu, hakshivu na. You know, so please, so before they actually get to the words, and it means pay attention. Hakshiv to, so it's a little bit of a, well, it's parallel, right? So it's Shema, listen, Hakshiva, now. So that's interesting. And then the next word that I would just want to parallel here, the different ones, Ha'azina. So ozen is ear. So ha'azina is another way of saying pay. What do we say that in English? Pay your ear? No, we don't say.
Give ear to? Give ear? Do we say
Ear
give
to,
ear
but
to?
it's not so common, right, in English.
Find
But
your ear.
in
Rabbi,
biblical,
it's the prayer that Moses, his last thing, Hahazinu, it's that last
exactly
parsha.
the same parsha, the same word. In biblical Hebrew, it's a very common word for another way to listen. So far we've had these three words: Shema, listen; Hakshiva, pay attention; and Ha'azina, Ozen, Aleph, Zayin, Nun is the Shoresh. What do Israelis call Hamantashen? Don't you call, what's?
Oznei Haman.
Right, Oznei Haman,
Haman.
the ears of Haman, because it's the ears of Haman. Yep, right, Oznei Haman, same word. So, but Ha'azina, I will just say this, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. The ending of these verbs, Hakshiva and Ha'azina, for those of you who are grammar geeks, this is cohortative. It's asking people to do something. Hakshiva, so we've got these three words that I would say are some degrees of parallel, but also some degrees of intensification. Listen, pay attention, and give your ear to, or another Hebrew word. Okay, so what are we asking for the attention being given to? First of all, the first one is to Yud Hey Vav Hey. So listen, Yud Hey Vav Hey, the power in the universe. Yud Hey Vav Hey. If you're not comfortable with God language, just replace it right now for listen, universe. Listen, universe. Listen, world. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen. Tzedek. What am I asking the universe to listen to me? What am I asking for God, the one who has breathed in, who has created me? Here, Tzedek, Hakshiva, Rinati. So we've got Tfilah in the beginning, then Rinati. Rina, which of course is a lovely name. Rina, some of you might even know a Rina in your life. This is the Hebrew word Rina. Rina also means joy, or it's interesting, they translate this part as, no, tzedek is where the just is. Rina, he listen to my cry. Ha'azina tfilati, again the word tfilah, prayer. So we're reflecting back to the beginning of the pasuk, the verse. So give ear to my prayer. So listen to me, pay attention to what's just, Rinati, my crying out, listen, and my prayer. Then kind of there's a break, below Sfatai Mirma. Now, anybody recognize that's a phrase, Sifatai Mirma, my lips. These are Sfatayim are quite literally lips. Below that, my lips do not do what? Mirma. Where else do we hear this phrase about Sifatai Mirma? Donnie Masang wrote a great setting for this at the end.
It's the blessing after the end of the Amidah. But
right.
It's not
a blessing. It's not a blessing. It's the paragraph. The end of the Amidah. Excellent, Harold. And I'm going to.
Nimi says Elohai Nitzur.
Exactly. And we sing that setting that Donnie Masang sang. So many of you know that. And I'm just going to read this whole thing to you. And some of you, the chorus, those of you in the chorus know it. If you have a CBST Siddur, it's on page 118. Elohai Nitzur, oh God, Nitzur lishoni mirma, keep my tongue from speaking evil, Usfatai midaber mirma, and my lips, and we translate it as telling lies. So many of you know it because the chorus sings the Dani Maseng version of this. So and this is this paragraph that ends the Amidah is an add-on that the Talmud has some options to say, basically when the Amidah is over, it's not considered actually part of the Amidah. And it's kind of leaving the Amidah. The last blessing of the Amidah is the blessing of peace. And then this is the kind of paragraph to leave from the Amidah back to life. And we pray that our lips will be, well, so that's very similar. It's quote, that was really quoting the Psalms. So prayer of David, Yud He Vav He, listen to what's just, pay attention to my cries, give ear to my prayer, that I am saying all of the things that I'm saying. There's no guile or lying or, no, it's honest, it's clear, it's direct. That's very powerful. It's saying, what I'm saying now is coming from my deepest soul without cover that way. Milfanech, I'm going to do a few verses before we open it up just to make some, so just hold on. I'm not looking at the comments, but we'll stop and I'll take comments, okay? Milfanecha. Now, we've encountered this various uses of this before. So from lifanecha, the mem prefix is a shortening of the word min. From, when it's attached to a Hebrew word, it means from. Milfanecha. Fanecha is.
What verse are you in, please? You're going
verse
ahead.
2.
Fast.
No, we're in verse 2. We haven't gone very far. We're in verse 2. Milfanecha, the first word of from. So from panim in Hebrew means face, right? Panecha means your face. So it is a very traditional way to say from in front of you, but it's literally from in front of your face. Milfanecha, from in front of you. So, but it literally means I'm from in front of you. Mishpatei yetze enecha techazena mesharim. Mishpatei, we've come across the word mishpat before. A shofet is a judge. Mishpat, beit. Mishpat is a court. Mishpat is a sentence or a law. In Judaism, there are two, in Jewish halacha, in Jewish law, there are two kinds of laws in Judaism typically. And halacha and rabbinic language talk about mishpatim and chukim. We see those words combined often to talk about chukim and mishpatim. Typically in Jewish law, the difference between a chok and a mishpat is that a mishpat is a law that makes sense. Like don't kill, right? It makes sense. Don't steal. It makes sense. You don't need to be, a genius to understand why a society would have laws against killing and stealing. And in Jewish law, chok, which is another word for law, is a law that does not necessarily make sense intellectually, but has the same power or meaning in Jewish law. So for instance, don't eat pig. There is no intellectual reason that can explain why pork is not kosher. I know people have tried to come up with them. Or, so that's considered a chok. Kashrut is considered a chok. It doesn't have necessarily ethical or obvious explanation for it. Although Jews have forever tried to come up with, there's some bad bacteria or something like that. But the biblical law doesn't have. So those are considered chukim, or the singular is a chok in law, and mishpat. So you'll often see, and throughout the liturgy, you see chukim umishpatim as a phrase. That's a very common phrase. And so the rabbis ask, okay, why do we say laws and laws? Since they both mean laws, So they distinguish. It's not clear that the Bible made this distinction, but I want everybody to know that this distinction exists in Jewish thought, that mishpatim tend to be those things that are obvious, that are meaningful, that have relevance, that you understand, and chukim are the things. And an Orthodox or a traditional Jew will say, it's my job to observe a chok with as much enthusiasm that I will observe a mishpat. Just because I don't understand everything doesn't mean it doesn't have meaning in my development of closeness to God. And part of the mystery of the universe is that I don't understand everything. So for an Orthodox Jew, they don't ask the question, why do I observe this particular law or not? It's because the law has been given and it's our job to observe them. So some laws don't have meaning to a human simple meaning, but they have, and we don't know what the meaning is. And in fact, some Orthodox Jews, and there's a lot written about this, talk about on some level, if we observe something that's a chok, it's even more meaningful because we're not doing it because it has meaning to us. We're doing it because we've been asked by God. Okay, so let's just moving through just to see this. So my vindication will come, Yetzei Einecha, your eyes. So this is a very, so it will come in front of your eyes. Your eyes will observe this, Techazena Meisharim. So Meisharim, this is not like Mea Sha'arim, which is a neighborhood in Jerusalem, but it might sound like that to an American ear. Those are two words. Mea Sha'arim is 100 gates. Two words, Mea, which means 100, and Sha'arim, like Sha'ar Zahav, Mea 100 gates, because that's the name of the neighborhood. But this is Meisharim, which is from the root word Yud Shin Resh, Yashar, which means straight. And I think I've told this class that in, Yud Shin Resh means straight when it's used in the last paragraph of the 92nd Psalm, the Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. And Ayelet and I, when we were discussing translating that, we didn't want to translate it as straight because straight in English also means sexual orientation. In Hebrew, Yashar has nothing to do with sexual orientation. And in fact, in modern Hebrew, the word straight is used to mean straight and sexual orientation. But this means what is right, what is correct. Okay, verse 3, and then I'm going to stop and we'll just go through 3 verses today. Bachanta libi, you have tested, interesting, I don't know why, I see, pakadata Laila, I see. Bachanta, it's the second part of they've changed the English in order to make it make more sense in English. Bachanta, you have tested, you have investigated, you have searched libi, my heart. Lev is a heart, like b'chol levavcha, the same shoresh, libi. And for those of you who are interested in dageshim and grammar, the dagesh in libi shouldn't be there. If we were applying the beged kefet rule, it's there because the bet is doubled. The shoresh is actually lamed bet. So b'chol levavcha. I'm going to go quickly over that. That'll only be for the people who enjoy that. But so the dagesh should not be there if it were the beged kefet rule, because there's a vowel underneath the lamed. But it's there because of the double lettering. That dot in the bet means that the shoresh has 2 bets. So libi. If it didn't have a double letter there, it would be pronounced livi, which we don't pronounce. We say libi because of that. And you ask any Israeli, they'll certainly know how to say that, but they probably wouldn't know that particular bizarre rule. I mean, this is the stuff that you only study when you study, right? I mean, I'm not sure any Israeli would be able to say that, but they'll pronounce it correctly. No Israeli would say Levi. It just doesn't sound right because it's not right. Okay, so you have searched my heart, but notice that he translates this translator says mind because heart can mean the consciousness in biblical Hebrew, can mean the intellect. There's no word for brain. So heart here becomes the equivalent of consciousness, or how I'm thinking. Pakadata, you have visited. Lifkod, to visit, or to visit. Lila, you have visited at night. You have tested me. This is now a weird word. Bal timsa, without finding anything, basically. Zamoti bal ya'avorpi. This whole thing is a weird word. I determined that my mouth, bal ya'avorpi, that will not transgress. Ya'avor, go someplace not correct. All right, there's a lot of work to do to get through this psalm, but let's just stop there for any comments or questions. And again, there's a lot I have to say about the psalm itself, but I'm waiting till we've gotten through more verses.
Rabbi, some of the discussion in chat was about Rina, that seems to have a shade of meaning everything from a delight in song to a cry of distress.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then below here, is this the same thing as I hear Jew
And
say?
Rina can also mean song. It could mean song. It could mean.
I think there's a chorus called Kol Rina.
Oh yeah. So Rina can mean song. And it's in the
here,
Sheva Brachot. Yep. Mm-hmm.
This is the same thing when someone says Bli Neder, I'm going to tell you something, but I'm not going to make a vow on it.
Well, it's actually, no, Bli is the word without. This is
Okay.
Bilo. It's a different word.
Okay.
Bli is Bet Lamed Yud. Bli means without. This is Bilo, in the negative, without. It's yeah.
Different. Lisa Brown.
Different word. But it means kind of the same thing in this case, sort of.
Lisa Brown.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about verse 2, Milfaneka Mishpati Yitze, and which direction that's going into. It seems that
it's a very strange word sentence. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it could be interpreted really not the way it's interpreted here. I'm wondering if that's true. It's like my judgment comes from you.
Right. Yep. You could certainly read it that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in fact, I think that's more obvious than vindication. I don't know where this translator got vindication.
Right, but it's not that the author is being vindicated. It's that the author's sense of justice is coming from God. That's the way I see that.
Yeah, that's not clear. That vindicate. I don't know where they got. I would say it in the more simple way to say it, which is how I'd say it, is well, my judgment will come from before you.
What about my confirmation will come from you?
We'll see. This is a weird sentence. They're one of several weird sentences, and you'll see a lot of different. Again, I'm just using the Sepharia because it's right in front of us. It doesn't mean I think this is the right absolute way to do it. It's to get going deeper and deeper. So you'll see our commentaries and translators will do very different things. You'll see. Let me see it. Levi says, "From your face itself, let my judgment come."
Right.
So you're going to see, yeah. Again, Safari is just easy for us to use on screen as the first jump into it. Doesn't mean I think this is the right absolute translation.
Yeah, it means that God, the author his judgment is being informed by God. It's not God coming to the author and saying, you're okay. It's that the way that the author thinks is being shaped by God.
Not necessarily. It could also mean the judgment comes from God.
Right, either one of those.
Either one of those, yep, I think.
Sarah Siegel.
It was about vindication. And when we were in our chavruta, we did talk about maybe vindication was presumed from the next mishpat. You have visited me at night, blah, 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 and determined that
that's
nothing.
That's a nice idea. Nice idea.
Instead of judgment.
Yael?
So I mentioned in the chat that there are a lot of body parts here.
Yes, there are a lot.
There are ears, there are eyes, there is a mouth, there is a heart. So that's really interesting. And I also, Cantor Nimi just mentioned that the word chazan comes from the word techezena, which is in the second verse. And I'm really wondering, if Cantor Nimi would comment on that. Techezena has to do with eyes, and yet the chazan is someone that we experience with our ears. So why would the word chazan would come from techezena? I'm really curious about that.
I can jump in on that.
Yeah, please do.
Experimenting with Purim background, so forgive the. Anyway, so yes, my understanding, and I'd have to double check because this is a long time that I learned about this now, but that the chazan was an earlier name for a name for an earlier role in early synagogue, like even Second Temple era synagogue life, that somebody who had oversight over the building, who made sure that the chairs were all undamaged. It had to do with this sense of oversight in the building, and that later on that title, that name was used again for a person who also had other functions in the synagogue, including offering some of the liturgy, and that the two roles just kind of got smushed together over time. Again, that's a very perfunctory understanding of it.
It's interesting. I've never thought about that. Thank you.
Ben Shafran.
I'm reading the first three verses together, and my question is, am I overreading it, or is it really so that there is a real mixture here of the personal and the general? Like verse 3 is completely personal. Yep. It's libi, zamoti, pi. Verse 2 is mishpati, which is personal.
Yeah.
But the second phrase, enecha terzena mesharim, is plural. It's a general thing.
Yep,
and
I
in
agree
verse 1, Shema Adonai Tzedek, it's a general. It's not.
Yeah.
And Shema is really, it's not Shema Tzidki. It's Shema Tzedek, which is a very general thing. And then he goes in.
One of our commentaries,
is there any meaning to that?
Yep. We'll ascribe meaning to it because I think meaning is everywhere, but which is again different than what the author indicated. And I think one of our commentaries, and I can't remember if it's Alter, explores that a little bit, or Levy, I can't remember, but because it is very obvious in the Hebrew, there's a lot of me, coming back to me or I, and then there's some more general. So I think you're absolutely right. What it means, that's going to be up to us.
Shep.
Yeah, hi. Maybe I missed something, but the third verse, so what happens to libi, my heart? It's not in the English. I missed that.
Say that again?
In the third one, verse, it says libi, right? My heart, right?
Right.
And I don't see it in the English translated.
Right, that's because what I'm saying is that lev, a heart in biblical Hebrew, is the seat of consciousness. Because there was no concept of a brain or of a, so it means consciousness. You have explored the way I think about something.
Okay, like mind.
Yep, so they're using mind, but you'll see it being, like Levy says, you probed my heart. He rejects that.
It reminds me of Yehuda.
The reason of going for mind, though, is because sometimes lev, the heart, is seen as this, it's like the liver is seen as the source of honor. Like there's, that these places are seen in pre-modern biblical universe as having meaning beyond just the body part.
It reminds me of Yehuda Levi, Libi B'Mizrach. That I think he meant his heart, right?
Yes.
Nothing else? No other hands? Nothing in chat?
Great. Do we have time to do another verse? Let's
One more verse, and then we'll go to a little play out by Adria.
Great. So 4. Lefulot. So poel is a worker, verb. It is an active, it is a doer. So here the translator is saying for the man's dealings, Adam, lefulot Adam, for the deeds or the workings or the activities of man. Kidvar, according to the Dvar, to the thing, to the word, to the command. Aseret HaDibrot are the 10 commandments. What?
It's a bet. It's a bet.
Oh, bidivar, not kodivar.
Bidivar, right? Sorry. Okay, bidivar, right? In the and bet as a prefix can be mean with, or it's a conjunctive of many different flexibilities. Kidvar sifat. Now here's the word for lips, but your lips. Ani shamarti, I will protect or keep, like Shomer Yisrael or Shomer Shabbat, I will keep. Is that a patach? Yeah. Or chot paritz. I have kept in view of the fate of the lawless. That's going to take too much to go over today, but that's enough for verse 4 today. Let me quickly do verse 5 because I just want to make some headway before, because there's a lot of this, as everybody's picking up, that's not so clear. I want to get to some of our commentaries. My feet have held to your path. Again, so here there's actually v'ma'aglotecha. Ma'agal is a
Circle.
Circle, thank you. Circle, ma'agal is a circle. So my legs have not given away. There's no real word there for legs. This is another very strange word, but tamoch means I have been supported by or close to. Bal namoti. This translation is very odd. All right, we're going to need to get to some of our commentaries because you're going to see how they handle these things. All right, but we finished 5 for enough for today.
And maybe, thank you. And maybe Adria would like to play us out with a little bit more from Voces 8. Or Voces Auto.
I actually queued up something else based on what Rabbi Kleinbaum mentioned at the beginning of class. So it's 3 minutes, and the video quality is not that excellent, but I think you'll enjoy it anyway. So here we go.
Here it comes. Oh no. Oh no.
Well, I can't keep everybody here for
I'm waiting
hours.
for the boy soprano.
Don't
You
let
gotta
me
play
appear.
that part. For
They
those of us
cut
that
it,
wanna
they,
skip.
they actually cut it there as well.
Oh.
I'll do some more digging and send you the links. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. And tonight, for those who want to join, there will be a Shloshim service. You don't have to know the family or the deceased to do the community obligation of showing up to help a family remember their lost one. And it's going to be very moving. I think it's at 5:30. We sent out the notice yesterday. But please consider joining us to help a family remember somebody who's died 30 days ago. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great day. The room will stay open for a couple of minutes. Okay, Emily, we'll just leave it open for a few minutes, for about 5 minutes. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Saul, are you still here?
I am.
Okay.